Good morning, everyone. Today I will speak about the impact of ecological research on different users of scientific information. So this is me in what I feel is my natural habitat, the tropical forest. My training in forestry got me involved with tropical forests as early as in my bachelor, and made me also aware of the importance of ecological studies to know better our environment and how important these ecosystems are for our subsistence and also for the subsistence of local communities, which is more importantly. So I gained my experience being in close contact with forests and local people, from who I learned the respect for nature, to the resources, to other beings, and to themselves. So I devoted myself studying more profoundly this type of ecosystems, and I wanted to contribute with improving local knowledge on the resources that surround them. So later on, I started working in international organizations such as the United Nations Environment Program, based in Nairobi, in the divisions for communications and public information. Such an organization has a great impact on environmental action and also on informing environmental issues. But to my surprise, most of the information managed there did not include scientific information. So I started to wonder what happens with all the existing scientific information today, who makes use of it, and I'm sure most of you write papers and publish papers, but have you ever wondered whether your papers are going outside the scientific circle and are having an impact on society? 50 million of papers are published per year, at least in the last 2 years, and about 1 million is oriented to ecological science. Although many scientists are having doubts about the relevance or the reliability of these papers due to the quality of the observational and experimental data that in many times may lead to contradictory results. What is happening then with these papers? Are they making impact on the main users? So I would like to exemplify that with a study I developed for the ASB research from the World Agroforestry Center. ASB stands for Alternatives for Bern. And one of the main objectives of this project was to inform policy makers on relevant and up-to-date information on climate change related issues, especially within the context of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change that happens every year. So one way of informing policymakers is by developing policy briefs which contains concise, relevant, and most up-to-date information on climate change, with a wording that is understandable by policymakers and even so by the general public. We assessed the relevant documents of 4 major influential institutions, and we found that very few documents cited not only ASB research, but was also very surprising to find that very few cited scientific papers. And this shows us that despite the great effort of this research institution of informing policymakers, and despite the vast amount of scientific information, the use of this information by influential institutions is still low. So this is only a sample on what the impact of the scientific research is on only a small sector, which is the policy community, which is not less important because they are the ones who ultimately decide the future of the forests. So it's also interesting to know what the impact is on civil society. So there was a survey carried out by the Social Research Institute last year, and they got impressions on what scientific research is for them. They showed that 80% of the people don't have access to scientific information, and they don't even know how scientists work. 72% of the people found that scientific research are just contradictory. Another 69% think that scientists should listen more to public's concern, and they should answer people's more pressing issues. 68% think that scientific research should show more the social implications of this. And another 55% just don't trust scientific papers, and they think that scientists are getting the results they want. So this survey was conducted mostly in European cities, so we suspect that the numbers may be more critical in tropical forests. And this whole overview shows us that there is a missing linkage between the scientific community and their main users, and there is an urgent need to bring scientific information closer to civil society. As an ecological researcher, I have a strong interest to contribute to people's knowledge, and that my research serves as a tool to improve people practices on the sustainable management and use of the resources, and as well, through that, be able to conserve biodiversity. Through my work experience, I became aware of people increasing interest to protect forests through reforestation of degraded lands with diversified native species, and in order to recover the natural biodiversity of the area. Additionally, tropical forests are having a great potential to sequester carbon from the atmosphere, and the international carbon markets are creating a great value for these forests, and so people can benefit economically from the incentives for carbon credits. But there were many questions to answer, like what species to plant, how to identify species, how they grow, and what the potentials are to sequester carbon. To answer some of these questions, I developed my research at the Isthmus of Panama, which provide an ideal setting to carry out this research because in a relatively short distance, there is a variety in climate and soils that is ideal to study the requirements of moisture and nutrients for the species. So the Isthmus of Panama is basically located where the Panama Canal is, between the Pacific and Caribbean Ocean, and the forests that are adjacent to this canal are still remaining pristine, and in many cases are primary forests. We identified here 440 different species for which we know all the requirements for nutrients and for moisture. And with these results, we expect to contribute with the ideal species to reforest the degraded areas. And this is an information that is already published and is already available to local communities. But there were many questions remaining. We are assessing now 40 different species and growing them in their natural forest with the nutrient requirements that we already know. So with this, we expect to obtain information on growth rates and on the potential of species to sequester carbon through biomass accumulation. So we hope that with this study, as well as this little tree, will contribute to the recovery of the forest and of the natural biodiversity of the area, at the same time contribute to improving the livelihood of local communities. To end this presentation, I would like to say that conserving biodiversity in the tropics is not an easy task, and I'm convinced that providing the right tools and knowledge, we can efficiently and adequately conserve forests and lead reforestation programs to a success. The projects that have failed in the past due to the use of non-suitable species. So with that, I thank you for your attention.